Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Today's video is on, whoops, sorry, gotta turn this music down a little bit. All right, today's video is on the 10 of Cups, and it's kind of cool because we just had the 9 of Cups the other day, and in the back of my head the whole time I was meditating on the 9 with the way that it's very symmetrical, much the way the 9 cups along the bottom, I don't know, 6/7 of the card are displayed here, but they are in the 9. They're all separated by foliage, leaves, and things. So it's like they're organized but separate. And this one of the main things, besides the appearance of the 10th cup on its side, on top of all of them, is the disappearance of these dividing growths, and also something that I recently kind of started thinking was about the vegetative growth in the tarot in general, as representing outcroppings of the organic and biological aspects of human beings, as opposed to, let's say, something like the intellectual, the spiritual, or mystical, or psychological, just all of the kind of vegetative things that often when someone is in a coma and they're not conscious, they're not, they're just off. It's like they're in this vegetative state. They're like a vegetable, right? So it's like those things. Another interpretation on that 9. But anyway, the whole time I was thinking about that, I was kind of thinking about this because it's so similar. And one of the things that I thought of was I was reminded of a time long ago when there were big parties happening, and the kind of like rave warehouse parties. They were always at they weren't at legal drinking establishments or concert venues. It was always some warehouse that someone managed to lock down for a couple of nights, throw in a legal party. Anyway, I remember having this experience once at one of these parties. I was kind of just standing around talking with people, very loud, kind of techno-y music playing, and the kind of dance songs that were playing had a very consistent song structure, where over the course of about 64 bars, the song would break down, then slowly start building up until right at the end, things just got really, really, really intense without the beat kicking in yet. And then there would be some sort of a drop, like a solo bass riff or some sort of incidental musical hit, and then everything would kick back in. And I noticed that so many people, just like me, were kind of standing around talking, even on the dance floor. But every time the build-up started getting really close to that final bar, every time that drop hit, everyone would erupt in dance. Very briefly, though, within a few seconds after the drop, people would sort of go back to hanging out and talking. But there were at these regular intervals, there were these moments where everyone just kind of surrendered to the music, or maybe the culture of the club, of what is normal to do. Maybe they felt some sort of social pressure that this is the time where you, and almost amongst everyone too, it was always throw your hands in the air and start gesturing, like fist punching or something along those lines, to the quarter notes of the beat. And I was really struck by the kind of juxtaposition of what appeared like the total disinterest of the music right up until the drop, and then this almost involuntary possession, like this thing, this essence just swept through everyone, and everyone just became animated, like like zombies almost or something. And it's that kind of an experience that kind of makes me think about this card, or this card makes me think of experiences like that. In fact, as soon as I thought of that, I thought of other musical events, and one of the things that I thought of kind of comedically associated with that one cup sideways on top of all those cups facing up is being at a rock show where the lead singer during the guitar solo, let's say, runs and dives off stage and then crowd surfs, right? If you're not familiar, it's literally someone will jump off stage and the crowd will catch them and will just hold them up over their heads and pass them from person to person, because a single average human being certainly, doesn't weigh enough to inconvenience 10 people underneath him or her, right? And so looking at this card after thinking of that, I kind of laughed to myself, thinking how, that 10th cup at the top could be this like crowd surfing, body surfing cup. And again, the metaphor there is it's not so much the musical drop, let's say, as this person jumping out into the crowd. When I've been in those situations where I am underneath the person jumping into the crowd, there is it's a little scary, but there's nothing that you could really do except hold your hands up above your head, because you're kind of like, fuck, and you try and protect yourself. And at the same time that you're putting your hands up, everybody else around you puts their hands up, and then you all catch this person. So again, there's that kind of group synchrony without, there's no planning. It's not like me and everyone around me had a little sit down and said, okay, when the person jumps, we're all going to catch them. It just happens. Everyone that participates in that is independently compelled to act in that way. And then once that person is up there and they're surfing on you, again, there's this another stage of this kind of, no one is coordinating verbally. It's just everyone kind of just becomes a part of this current that is moving this person. And sometimes the crowd takes let's say the singer, sometimes the crowd takes the singer further away from the stage. Sometimes the crowd immediately returns the singer to the stage. And again, it doesn't seem like this is decided in advance. It's not like the singer that's doing the body surfing is, saying, over in this direction, please. But like the sum total of the crowd appears as though there's some, agreement that the crowd has come to, but there isn't. It's this automatic process where something presents itself to you that's powerful enough to essentially force you to respond. It possesses and inspires you to respond, as well as everyone around you. And it's this incredibly, it's simultaneously an incredibly powerful experience, which, you experience individually. At the same time, it comes at the cost of essentially losing all self-control and individuality, because the experience comes because you're just one out of however many people all doing the same thing. A friend of mine once told me that there is a part of the brain, a little clump of neurons somewhere in everyone's brain that is specifically tuned to respond positively, to make you feel good when you sing in unison with other people. That's its only function. It's very interesting. How cool is that? Confucius, who I'm kind of a fan of. I like Confucian philosophy on filial piety and a lot of his ideas about government. He was, he was a musician. A lot of people said first and foremost he was a musician and a poet, who then also became this incredibly competent politician and philosopher. Maybe not in that order. But yeah, one of the things that he said many times was that it was to him, the most important things were the folk dances, the folk music. But particularly he loved the festivals that involved dancing and music. Not as much the what people wear. That is often what people say. You go to a cultural fest, like I don't know, I'll have in my city there's like the Polish neighborhood, and they'll have Polish fest, and you go and they have Polish food, and there are people wearing traditional Polish clothing. Those were the things that Confucius wasn't as impressed by, but it was the singing and dancing, and specifically the kind of singing and dancing that was sort of carried out as a group activity. So not watching one person dance and being entertained by it, but like everybody gets on the floor and does this dance that everyone has learned since they were a kid in that village or whatever, and it's like the synchronized, everyone doing the exact same moves. Or the kind of singing where, again, you don't just go watch a singer sing, it's like everybody sings this thing together. Maybe it's the national anthem, maybe it's some sort of hymn, whatever, you got your song. I know I have some friends from the UK. I remember them telling me like, yeah, at the pub, every pub has like a couple songs that it's the songs of that pub that they will do. It's like that's their theme, and often that's how they spot people who like don't belong, is because like you don't know their song. Anyway, these are just all examples of that kind of experience of both losing something that we're often like pretty dead set on holding on to, even I find it interesting that even a lot of my more vocal socialist communist friends who philosophically should be all about this kind of communal dissolving of the individual into the group, they're still very much so individualists in the kind of acknowledgement or acceptance or celebration of their ideas. What they're after is still a very individualistic experience. They're not really looking to selflessly dissolve themselves into the group. I think that's pretty common, and I think that there are certainly some groups of people, often the religiously devout, or at least the religiously practicing, that go to church. Churches often have a lot of singing along, and sometimes doing I can't remember what religion it is, but I remember seeing videos of like a group of people essentially all kind of skipping, running in a circle, in like a giant, densely packed circle where everyone's just shoulder to shoulder, and they're just going around and around and around. Like, it doesn't even have to be complex. It's just almost just like intense and constant, But yeah, so I think this is something that some people get a lot of, and might not even realize how significant of an experience it is in terms of making us feel like we, occupy some place in society that has some meaning or some importance to it, that maybe lasts longer than us in some way. Like, that's one of the things that I often, when I talk to people that have an active, religious life, as far as their like religious rituals go, it's often the case where it if it feels like they're hinting at this kind of experience of being a part of something, feeling like you're a part of something bigger, and therefore, your own individual limitations aren't, they're not all that is, involved in your existence, that you extend past the sum of your parts. But yeah, so acknowledging how special that could be if you already have that, if you're kind of immersed in that and don't realize it. But then inversely, if it's been a while since you've had this sort of experience, then I would highly recommend, I think this, I interpret the numbered cards, the pip cards, as being representative of experiences. There are things that happen to us, and I like to take it a step further and specifically try and figure out where the experiences happen. In general, as far as the tarot, as far as I see the tarot as a tool for the creative exercise of the mind. I think that meditation is certainly, and I don't even necessarily mean some sort of fancy meditation. I mean, just thinking about something, just being mindful, just sitting down and not being distracted by anything else, just thinking about something for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Even that's pretty rare in a lot of people's lives. But I feel like with the pip cards, I feel like the opportunities that the pip cards represent is identifying a place where you could go, where being in the place will bestow some sort of experience on you, as opposed to just trying to think about that experience and yes, I do imagine it feels quite good to dissolve into the crowd at a rock concert when the solo, but like you can imagine it all you want. And that's still better than nothing. But I think that I certainly like to take these cards up on the offer whenever I get the chance. And ever since, usually I draw these cards in the morning and then I kind of think about them all day, and then I'll record something in the evening. I've been thinking about this. One all day and thinking like, okay, where can I go? Where can I go to have this kind of experience? And kind of realizing that there aren't really any options right now where I could actually be with people. The sporting events are closed where I am. There's no concerts. I can go to there's some bars and restaurants that are open, but there isn't much of that kind of group singing. Maybe late in the night when everyone is wasted. Yeah, the karaoke places are closed, and that would be a relatively small group. All the churches are closed. It actually kind of made me, I'm not really like a religious church-going individual, but it kind of made me think. Like, if churches were open, would I go to a mass just to see if I could, keep up with whatever? Because I think usually they have booklets with the songs that they sing. I was kind of thinking I wonder if I could intuit the upcoming melodic changes and keep up, but that's not an option. There's very little available right now, but nonetheless, I think it could be a pretty handy thing to keep in mind and keep an eye out for these types of opportunities to kind of to temporarily dissolve into something bigger than yourself, some sort of group activity. I guess it would probably be a fairly simple, probably fairly repetitive kind of group activity, but yeah, anything that could really get this experience. That's going to be it for me today. Thanks for watching. Drop me a like if you enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment. Free reading. to be entered into a draw for a free one-on-one reading. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Talk to you then. Take care.